Washington Journal continues.
And we are back, joined now by Representative Ted Yoho, Republican of Florida, sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, you heard from the Secretary of State yesterday in a public hearing, along with Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz. What did you hear about this?
We were hearing how well this deal was and how it was good for America, the stipulations in it, and then that if we walk away as a country, as Congress, we walk away alone. And I think there's a lot more that needs to be looked at. We found out about the secret deal that's worked out between the IAEA and Iran, and we questioned a lot about that to find out really what's in that. And I felt like the negotiating team has put America, the representatives for the people, in a situation where we're having to vote against something or possibly vote against something without seeing all the facts. You know, if there is a side deal made by the IAEA and Iran, for us to vote on that without seeing it would be disingenuous.
Yeah, well, the Secretary of State, John Kerry, responded to these charges of a secret deal. I want to show our viewers what he had to say in case they missed it. Get your reaction.
This secret deal between the IAEA and Iran.
There's no secret.
We've never seen this. Are you going to present that to the Congress?
There's no secret deal. There is an agreement, which is the normal process of the IAEA, where they negotiate a confidential agreement, as they do with all countries, between them and the country. And that exists. We have briefed on it.
Are you going to present that to the Congress?
We don't have it. It is not.
Have you seen it?
We have been briefed on it. I have not personally seen it. But
Congressman?
Well, you know, like he said, we're going to be briefed on it, but being briefed and seeing what's in that are totally different. And one of the things that we found out about it was Iran, as far as the environmental sampling of soils, where a supposed nuclear trigger device was detonated back in 2003, and there's a 14-page report that came out of the IAEA Annex report that was backed up by over 1,000 pages of documents from Iran, pretty much is conclusive that it was they had detonated that. And so Iran will be the one doing the environmental sampling of the soil. And I don't know if you read Mr. Menendez's comments. That'd be like having Lance Armstrong take his own blood sample. I mean, it's not the way to move down this path, especially when we're talking about trust and verification.
What's the alternative?
The alternative is to go back to the negotiating table and negotiate stronger. If you look at what was given away in this deal, you know, we being the lone superpower, Iran came to the negotiating deal to relieve economic sanctions. We still have 4 hostages over there. And so in the negotiation, being the lone superpower, you think we would have started off on a stronger footing. And, you know, Iran will wind up getting a nuclear weapon. They were going to get one anyways. But we could have delayed it longer. We could have put forth stronger efforts to negotiate Iran removing all their nuclear capabilities, like other countries, like South Africa did, like Costa Rica did, to where they're not even producing the nuclear material. And, you know, we didn't do that. We wound up giving all that away. And, you know, there's that country song by Jerry Reed that says, she got the gold mine, I got the shaft. Iran can export their oil, their gold. They're paving a road to nuclear armament or nuclear weapons. They have economic development going on. We get to import Persian rugs, grapes, and nuts, is what the agreement says. So I think we could have done a lot better on this. And I think the biggest thing is they went to the UN. They went to the UN to get approval from the UN, and then they come back to us, and they put the onus on Congress. Said, if you guys turn this deal down, you're the ones walking away, and we're walking away alone. So that's put America in a very tough situation.
You have a vote potentially mid-September when you get back?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it realistic to think you could go back to the negotiating table?
Well, it's more realistic to go early than it is later, because you start getting the European Union in there, France, China, Russia starting to do economic development in there. If you're going to have these snapback options, it's better to do them earlier than later.
You also said, though, that the president could have negotiated a better deal that keeps Iran from a nuclear weapon longer. Under this deal, it's 10 years. How much longer?
Again, let's not concentrate so much on the nuclear weapons. Look who you're negotiating with. You're negotiating with the leading sponsor of state terrorism, sponsoring state terrorism. You've got a country that since 1979 has a lot of American blood on its hand. Of the American soldiers that were killed in Iraq or Afghanistan, 70% of them, they were either killed or wounded by IEDs. 90% of those were produced by Iran. Iran has got a footprint in South America and Central America, building mosques. Radical Islam is developing in there. And so you've got a country like this, you've got a country that's been saying death to America, death to Israel, and they're promoting all this, and we relieve economic sanctions, and they did this under the period of time when there was tough economic sanctions on them. And so if they are suffering so bad, why would they be spreading terrorism around the world? They've helped Hamas, they've helped Hezbollah, they're helping the Houthis in Yemen. They have a hegemony they're building right now in the Middle East. And by releasing these sanctions, it's going to embolden them. And this is a country that is on the state sponsor of terror. This is an enemy of the United States. And we're saying, let's give you more power. And I think it's a misstep in foreign negotiations, and I think, as Mr. Netanyahu said, this is a historic mistake.
Another issue I want to get to before we get to calls, and that is a motion put forth by your colleague, Representative Mark Meadows, a motion to remove the Speaker of the House. Do you support this?
We'll just see how it goes down the road. I told him, we've talked about this since then, and we'll just see how it plays out. This is like any family. They have internal conflicts. And I think we'll handle this internally, and we'll see how it turns out.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be made public with this motion.
It is, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about it today.
Do you think that, will you get a vote on this before you leave? What is the plan?
The way I understand it, he hasn't filed it yet. And I've heard reports he has, and I heard reports he has, and I heard the Rules Committee is not even going to let it come up, so there's a lot of speculation out there right now.
What are you waiting for to decide?
To see if it goes forward.
Well, do you agree with the way that the Speaker of the House has run?
I think we could do better on direction, on things being brought up. There's, so many times things are run on power or money instead of principle, and I think it's, we need to run on principle and vote the will of the American people, the people that sent us up here. And if you get chastised for voting your conscience on the way people, that send you up here that you're representing, that's wrong, because you're squelching the voice of that segment of the population that says, this is what I sent you up there to do.
Have you voted for the Speaker in the past, Speaker John Boehner?
No, I haven't.
So why not then support Mark Meadows'
Well,
motion
I put
now?
on there I probably would support it.
Okay, so you probably would.
Yes.
What would be your hesitancy to vote no?
To
Or
vote.
what would make you say, okay, I'm not going to vote for
Well,
this
if we go
motion?
forward with this, I'll go with it.
You will go with it. Okay. And what do you think happens from there?
We'll just play it out the best we can. I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, I hear every day, and a lot of people say, man, why are they doing this? Why is leadership not doing this? And there's a lot of discontent is what you'll see on the Hill.
All right. Why is the Speaker doing anything different than past speakers have?
I don't know. It's the only speaker I've had.
So what don't you, tell our viewers specifically, for those that, aren't familiar with how Capitol Hill works, what don't you like?
How Capitol Hill works or doesn't work. Well, and I think that you brought it up right there. We've got the debt ceiling coming up. We've had the repeal of Obamacare 47 times. We've not offered a replacement, even though we've had a replacement, H.R. 2300, for 3 years, ever since I've been here. Things like that aren't brought up. Immigration's a great thing. You want to know how it doesn't work. Why is immigration not dealt with? Why have we not dealt with immigration, a system that's failed for over 30 years? And then you get into the sanctuary cities, you get people being murdered by people that should have been deported from this country. So when we start talking about why is this not working, I think you need to look at how things are brought up and the discussion before they're brought up. Chairman McCall has a border security bill that was brought up in the beginning of the year. It got pulled. Yeah, these are contentious issues. But if we don't fix these issues, we, the people here today, who's going to fix them? And so we need to have those debates. I have a letter going to Mr. Boehner requesting that we, the legislators, address immigration. And I know the is we don't want to make it too contentious before the presidential primary. That's what happens. So many times things get punted to the next election instead of saying, you know what, these are tough issues, but the American people sent us up here to solve these. Let's solve them and have the debate. And that letter will be going out to Mr. Boehner so that we, the representatives of the people, want to have that debate. We want to direct that debate, because if we don't, what happens is you'll get another presidential executive order. Judge Haenen's ruling may be overruled on the immigration issue. I don't want to wait till another one of our citizens gets killed by somebody that shouldn't be in this country. And that's a national security issue. So why are we not dealing with that? You know, you talk about the debt ceiling. We haven't had a discussion in our conference on how we're going to deal with the debt ceiling when it comes up. And you know what happened in September of 2013. You know, the government shut down. And we don't want to do that. Nobody wants to see the government shut down. But shouldn't we be talking about those strategies today for, 6 months to a year down the road? And I don't see that.
Okay, let's get our viewers involved. Bob's
Sure.
up first in Philadelphia, Democrat. Hi, Bob.
Hi. Thank you, C-SPAN. Thanks for taking my call. Actually called as a Republican. I just wanted to make the point that, as the representative said, Iran was on the road to get a bomb either way, whether we relieve sanctions or not. This deal will essentially give them a bomb with sanctions relieved and about $100 billion, which to me seems ridiculous. It's utterly feckless. So, I mean, I can't understand. The world leaders, our enemies in the world, must laugh at us, because this administration is utterly feckless when it comes to China, Iran, Russia. So that's about all I have to say.
Bob, I appreciate that, and I agree with you. I've sat on that Foreign Affairs Committee for over 2.5 years, and we've had experts in every meeting we have. We talk about Iran, not every meeting, but we've had several over the course of the last 2.5 years. All the experts have told us that Iran has enough fissile material to have 5 or 6 weapons within 6 months to a year. And if that was true 2 years ago, we can only assume they have enough material. In fact, John Kerry yesterday said they have enough material for 10 weapons. And if you go back to the original talks about this agreement, President Obama says Iran will not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And John Kerry and the president also said there would be anywhere, anytime, any place access. We find out that's not true. And so if Iran was going to have enough material to have nuclear bombs, we're starting to negotiate on something, trying to prevent something that we can't, instead of preparing for something that will be. And we should be preparing for the day that Iran has a nuclear weapon, but more importantly, we should be talking about the responsibility that comes with that. And I think that's what we need to do.
Roy's next in Sun City, California. Democrat. Hi, Roy.
Good morning. Thank
Morning.
you for taking my call. I support the agreement. I would like to ask the Congressman, what's your alternative? What do you think you can do now without the assistance of the other 5 or 6 countries? Are we going to go to war? And if we do go to war, are we going to raise taxes on the citizens of this country? Are we going to start a draft? It's always people like you. I don't think you've ever served in the military. I'm a 20-year veteran that are really reckless. The world is not the way it was 50 years ago, where we can just go out and start wars. And I think the agreement is a good one.
All right, Roy, we'll have the congressman respond to you.
Roy, I appreciate your service to our country, and you're right, I've never served. I've got a daughter that's serving in the military. My brother served in Vietnam. My dad was World War II, and I have a lot of respect for our military. I don't want to go to war, and we're not advocating war. And it's like I said on the last caller, Iran is going to have a nuclear weapon whether we do this or not. You asked what's our alternative. Unfortunately, the way this deal was negotiated, our negotiating team and this administration worked out a deal. And remember what they said. We're going to want a no deal is better than a bad deal. This is not a good deal. I don't care what color you paint it, what accessories you put on it. This is not a good deal. If you go back to the North Korea and NPT negotiations, we had South Korea and Japan at the table because they wanted that agreement, because they're surrounding partners in that region. And so we voted for that. Of course, North Korea broke the deal and they wound up with weapons. But in this negotiating, There was not, Israel wasn't present. No countries in the Middle East were present. The ones that really have the most to benefit or lose in this, they weren't at the table, and they don't want this deal. And I think that's something we should look at. Again, I'm not advocating war. We don't want war. I don't ever want to send our young men and women in harm's way again. We've got too many coming back, and I thank them for their service so that we have the freedoms and liberties we have. But this deal, if we would have negotiated from a position of strength, got Iran to come to the table in earnest. And if you look over the history of the last 30 years, with their reputation with the UN on resolutions, they were breaking those. If you look at the IAEA inspections on their nuclear sites, they were lied, cheating, and deceiving. And what makes you think if we give them more money, they're going to be nicer? I think Scott Perry said something very apropos yesterday. It would be like giving a shark or an alligator more teeth and saying, all right, be nicer now. I think we should have negotiated stronger, and unfortunately, this team put us in a position after they went to the UN. They said, all right, now if you guys walk away, we're walking away alone. And I think that's wrong to put the legislators of this country in that position to make us look like the bad guys instead of coming to us and saying, you know what, this is the deal, what do you guys think? And then go back to negotiations with the P5 and put more pressure on Iran and tell them we expect you to operate in a certain way. Thank you for the call.
Melissa's in Kansas, a Republican, and you're next, Melissa.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I just want to say that, Mr. Yoho, hallelujah. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
This Iran deal is absolutely shouldn't even be on the table. We should have never negotiated with a terrorist. Obama is going to give money to a terrorist country, and I think if a dime goes to Iran, Obama should be put in jail. It's a crime. You don't negotiate with terrorists. Aid and abet, and if I think he takes an oath. He says, I'm going to protect America.
Melissa, I appreciate the question. And, we had that for a question yesterday. All of us serving up here, all people in the military, take that oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. With Iran being the #1 state sponsor of terror, and we know how much blood they have on their hands, and we're emboldening them. I've heard people say the same thing as you have, and it does make you wonder, if we're the superpower, we should be negotiating from the position of strength and have Iran come to the table, say they're going to denounce terrorism, say they're going to stop funding the Hamas and Hezbollah. There's already plans to rebuild the tunnels with the money they're getting back. They've propped up the Assad regime before the big sanction reliefs come, and that was with the interim deal. They were supposed to get about $6 to $8 billion, which has turned into over $14 billion. And with that money, instead of building infrastructures and the things that they're complaining about, they help prop up the Assad regime, and they've already got plans to retrofit over 100,000 missiles that Hezbollah has with pinpoint accuracy technology. This is not the actions of a country that wants to be peaceful. And I think it's, history will play this out. And my feeling was they were going to have a bomb either way. We should prepare for this, but history will play this out. And this negotiating team will be remembered as the next Chamberlain, or if they're lucky, maybe as the next Reagan, as he dealt with Gorbachev. Thank you for the call.
I want to show Melissa and our other viewers and have you react to the exchange yesterday in the hearing between your colleague Scott Perry and the Secretary of State about who he was representing, the Secretary of State, in these negotiations.
Sure.
Do you care more about this deal or the UN's approval or American sovereignty and the approval of the American people through their duly elected representatives, Mr. Secretary?
Congressman, I don't need any lessons from you about who I represent. I've represented and fought for our country since I was out of college.
And God bless you for your
So
service.
don't give me any
sir.
lessons about that, okay? Now let me just make it crystal clear to you. This is America's interest, because America is the principal guarantor of security in the region, and particularly with respect to some of our closest friends. Now, we believe that Iran was marching towards a weapon or the capacity to have a weapon, and we've rolled that back, Congressman.
Okay, that's your opinion.
That's
and I understand
indisputable.
That belief.
No,
let me ask you this.
that's
Let
a
me ask you
fact.
this, Mr. Secretary.
Congressman, indisputable.
That was a heated debate. The passion for Mr. Perry, I mean, you know where he stands, the love of the country, and I'm not saying John Kerry doesn't. He does too. But again, when you negotiate this deal and you're negotiating with a country like Iran, I mean, the Ayatollah, death to America, death to Israel, President Rouhani, same thing, and they're burning the American flags and Israeli flags, and I know that's the norm over there. To negotiate, to allow them to go down this path without getting to denounce some of these other things, I think we could have done a lot better, and we should have. And I think the bad thing is, like I brought up before, is they negotiated the deal and then comes to Congress and wants us to approve this. And if we don't, they said that Iran, if we don't approve this, Iran has the right to walk away from this deal and start enrichment tomorrow. That's the kind of negotiation that this team did. And if you're negotiating for your side, I think you would do a little bit better than that.
All right, Birmingham, Alabama. Arnett, independent caller. You're on the air with Congressman Ted Yoho. Go ahead.
Good morning, and thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Congressman, as an 18-year-old, I joined the Navy nuclear power program and learned a few things about nuclear power. And the knowledge is still with me. You can destroy their facilities, but what about the knowledge? So, yes, they're probably on the path to a nuclear weapon, but this agreement shuts down some of the paths that they could take, such as their heavy water plant, which could produce plutonium, which is more useful in a bomb than anything else. So my question is, please explain to the people those two things. And my second question to you is, who's going to fight this war if there's no agreement and the P5 partners decided to forego sanctions and let Iran have that money that they've held in banks for them under the sanctions agreement? How many people are going to join the volunteer Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force to go fight this war? Or will there be conscription?
Mr. Arnett, I appreciate your service to our country and getting in at 18. I commend you. You say you can't bomb away knowledge, and I agree with that. And Secretary Kerry said that. Dr. James Walsh yesterday said that in another meeting. You can't bomb that away. It's going to be in the books. It's going to be on a data file somewhere. But you know what you can do is you can bomb away, or you can take away the want of a country that wants to continue terrorism against America. You ask who's going to fight this war. I don't want a war. I don't want anybody to fight this war. I don't want our young men and women going to another foreign country that's not a direct threat to this country. And if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, which they're going to either way, the way you prevent that war is through tough negotiation, and to get the P5 nations to go along with us 2 or 3 years from now, after all that economic development has happened in Iran, I think it's a fallacy to think we're going to have these snapback provisions. One of the provisions that is needed to be in place is the Iran Sanction Act, which is going to expire December 31st of 2016. That has to be in place for the snapback to happen, and that expires, and that was one of my questions. Are we going to reenact this, and will the president sign that? And they wouldn't answer that question. They said, oh, there's other mechanisms to do that. But you try to do snapback after France or the United Kingdom or China or Russia have economic development in there, and try to get them to come to this table. If Iran breaks one of their conditions of this agreement, and Iran has got a terrible record of standing up and withholding the promises that they make, and so again, moving down this path, it'll play out. It'll play out one way or the other, and I hope it plays out for the best for all humanity.
Chula Vista, California. Patrick, a Democrat. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for C-SPAN. Yeah, I'm trying to agree on the last call. Eventually, we're all going to go to war. I'm a Donald supporter, by the way, Trump. So when he usually
Donald
speaks,
Trump supporter, yep.
Yeah, Donald Trump. Excuse me. He usually says, whenever you give the enemy power, they're going to strike back at us. So basically, he the other day mentioned he made a comment. He put it quite ironically when he said, "Well, the primary is. I mean, I have a big penis, So,
Okay, we're going to move on to Ann. Sorry about that. Newport Richey, Florida, Republican. Hi, Ann. Good morning.
Hi. Good
morning, Ann.
Representative. I appreciate all of the wonderful calls you addressed this morning. I am a little nervous. Just take a second here.
I know how you feel.
I've been following C-SPAN for about a week now regarding this issue, and I want to tell you that I want to thank you for your service, and I think you're taking it slow and you're being very careful.
Thank you.
So here's my question. Nuclear proliferation and economic proliferation in this deal seem to be two separate items.
Correct.
Number one question I have on the nuclear proliferation, some of us won't ever probably know all the details of that, but the economics seems even more interesting to me. And the reason that I say that is because time here seems to be so pressing to decide this issue on the side of the administration concerning the president and when he gets out of office. And I'm wondering if we can't delay some of the negotiations or slow them down like I hope we could. The question about Hillary Clinton and some of the investments her foundation has made in terms of the uranium mines and how that works. This all seems so convoluted and very complicated. Can you help us with the economic side?
Ann, I appreciate the question. And the economic side, I think, is the biggest win for Iran in that they're going to have economic development. $100 billion to them is like getting trillions of dollars in our country for economic relief. And so they're going to, the amount they're going to get is between 100 and 115 billion. Jack Lew, the Secretary of the Treasury, said it's not really 100 billion. It's only going to be 56 billion because money's already obligated to China, another 20 billion. But that 20 billion goes to economic development and road constructions and things like that. So there is 76 billion right there on the table they're getting right now. And it's going to make a country that represses its people, leading state sponsor of terrorism, human rights violations, free speech violations, religious persecution, all that's going on now. And so now you're going to embolden the leadership of that country, not the citizens. And I think you're going to see the citizens under more theological control, authoritarian control, and you're going to see a worsening situation in Iran itself for the people. But I think you're going to see a hegemony of Iran in the Middle East, and they will be the dominant player over there. Look what they're doing in Iraq already. They're the ones leading the charge on so many of these fights. They're supplying the militia in Iran. They're supplying the militia in Yemen, the Houthi fighters that are fighting Saudi Arabia. They're funding Hezbollah and Hamas, and they've already made clear that they're going to help rebuild the tunnels. And so they're going to have a lot of economic power. And then tie that in with the nuclear proliferation, that at any point in time, if Iran thinks this deal didn't work out right for them, they can walk away from this. And going back to the deal that we should have negotiated earlier and stronger, as you brought up, that you wish we would have done better in the beginning, I do too. Because if we turn this deal down, according to John Kerry, it gives Iran the right to walk away from the table, and they can start enriching tomorrow. And if you're negotiating for the United States of America, I would think you would do what's best, not just for this country, but to stabilize world peace. And I sure don't feel like we've gotten this. And, you know, I just think it was a misstep on foreign policy. And this is something that's happened in this administration over and over again. And I get experts from all over the world. I get ambassadors, representatives, and they said that the Americans' credibility as far as a superpower has been brought down to the lowest level in our lifetime. And it's because of the lack of negotiating and putting what I feel is putting America first.
Larry is here in Washington, D.C., a Republican. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Congressman,
Good morning, Larry.
C-SPAN, and everybody. This event, it marks for 2015 as a watershed event for the entire world. Iran, they don't think like other countries. That their premise is they got to create chaos to bring the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, which in 1991 Kazakhstan gave Iran 3 tactical nuclear weapons. With this situation, they can develop their own, Dr. Khan, the events, so forth. But like you stated, then now Iran will gain hegemony of the Middle East and North Africa. That's the flashpoint. And the President and the Secretary of State, they made a Neville Chamberlain decision, and it's going to affect it. We're accelerating to a thermonuclear World War III, so forget about the presidential election, everything. We're on the abyss of a cataclysm.
Larry, I appreciate your call, and you know, I hope we don't go that route. I hope negotiation does come, and that the rest of the countries around the world will come in and help slow this process down and get Iran on the right track. We've got a lot of work to do. You have a country like Iran. They don't like Western ideology. They're trying to get rid of it. They're teaming up with the radical Islamists over there, and they're working against freedom and liberty is the underlying thing they don't like. They don't like liberty and freedom. They don't like free speech, and we're fighting an ideological divide, and emboldening somebody like Iran and thinking they're going to play nicer, I just think it's very naive, and I think you're right. I think it will be a Chamberlain type of moment, and you know, it just, all we can do is hope that we get together, that this deal gets turned down, we get the P5 back to the negotiating tables, and we get Iran to maybe release our 4 American hostages, denounce terrorism, say they're not going to fund Hamas and Hezbollah, and that they're going to be responsible world players, which would be very necessary if they do get a nuclear arm.
Congressman, I want to get your reaction to the front page of the Wall Street Journal this morning.
Sure,
Turks
Greta.
put NATO in a corner. The story is Turkey drew NATO deeper into the Middle East conflict on Tuesday while threatening to further inflame regional turmoil by signaling an end to 3 years of peace talks with Kurdish separatists.
I saw that this morning, and that, you know, and again, I think what you're going to see is an escalation of this, especially with the nuclear deal. When people start seeing, other countries start seeing Iran becoming more empowered, you're going to see this, and you're going to be bringing in NATO. You're going to be seeing NATO come into these other countries, which is going to draw the rest of the world. With Iran getting the possibility of a nuclear weapon 10 years down the road, you're going to see a proliferation of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. We've heard that Jordan's looking at it, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and you know, Turkey will be the next one. And I think it destabilizes the world. And it's interesting, when I heard the President and John Kerry say that this deal will make the Middle East, Israel, and the U.S. and the world safer. But if that's true, why are the experts coming into our committee and saying that the best thing we can do is start building a missile defense system on our eastern seaboard, which we don't have, bolstering the one on our western, and in Alaska? And if this deal is so good, why are the experts telling us? And I think you're just seeing the beginning of, you know, more tension in the Middle East.
Yeah, what the Wall Street Journal reports is that Turkey began airstrikes against the Islamic State last week, but also launched attacks on the Kurdish separatist group. So that in the Wall Street Journal this morning. We're talking with Congressman Ted Yoho, serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee in his second term in Congress. Before that, a veterinarian for 30 years and small business owner. Iris, you're next in Alabama, independent.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I love C-SPAN. It's a great show. Look, I feel like we look like we're shaking in our boots. They already have a nuclear weapon. They already have it. Somebody is going to push the button. It's just a matter of when they're going to push the button. There is going to be a cataclysm. The $2.5 billion we're fixing to give those people, we need to be building our defenses to protect ourselves because it's coming. There's nothing we can do about it. They hate us. There's nothing we can do about that either. They already told us how they feel about us. They want to wipe us off the face of the earth. They already have one.
Congressman, do you agree with Iris?
Iris, I appreciate you calling in. You know, we don't want to go down this path. I mean, nobody wants war, especially a nuclear war, but I feel your pain and I feel your angst. The IAEA inspectors, the International Energy Atomic Agency, they're the ones that are tasked with inspecting the nuclear places in Iran. We can only inspect the places we know about that are known facilities, and we get permission from Iran first. However, how many places are hidden like they had before that we didn't know about? That's the things that concerns me the most. Is, yeah, it's easy to inspect those things you think you know about. It's the ones you don't know are the ones that are going to do damage. And President Eisenhower back in the 50s said a peaceful nuclear program is done openly and out where people can see it. One that is done in the secret is only used to produce nuclear weapons. And I think that's wise counsel from a past president. Iran has already got ICBMs. They've detonated a nuclear trigger device, or real strong evidence of that from 2003, and they've got enriched uranium. And as John Kerry said, they already had enough material to produce 10 to 12 weapons. So, you know, all the components are there. It's when they choose to use it. And the ICBMs are not used for their next door neighbors. ICBMs are intercontinental ballistic missiles that are used to go across continents like America. And we don't ever want to see that day. I don't want to see my kids live through that. I don't want to see another generation of this world live through that. And I think it's better for us, and it would be better to intervene earlier than later. After Iran gets stronger, if these economic sanctions get lifted, it'll be harder to rein in somebody that spouts terrorism like they do, death to America, death to Israel, and they spread terrorism throughout the world, not just their hemisphere, but it's in the Western Hemisphere now. And so I think, again, we need to revisit this. I hope Congress has the will to vote this down and put pressure on the economic partners that we have that says we're not going to accept this deal. This is not good for anybody other than Iran. So I thank you for the call, Iris.
Congress is expected to vote on this in mid-September. New York Times reporting this morning that Representative Sander Levin, a Democrat of Michigan, the longest-serving Jewish member now in Congress, said Tuesday that he would support the Iran nuclear accord, lending a hefty voice of approval in a chamber deeply skeptical of the deal. That's the New York Times reporting that. We'll go to Mike in Merritt Island, Florida, an independent caller. Hi, Mike. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. I believe that we should negotiate a fair deal. I trust that Senator Kerry and those that represent us are not stupid people, and I don't think that we should be overwhelmed like the lady that spoke earlier with fear, and I don't think the Congress should be blackmailed by the special interest groups. And I was glad to see that Congressman Levin came out with his support. Korea, the Soviet Union, China, they're all technically our adversaries, and all got the bomb. And I don't think that we should live in fear. And I'm not in fear of Iran. And,
okay, Mike, let's take that sentiment. Don't want to live in fear.
Mike, I agree with you, and you said we should have a fair deal. I guess you have to define what fair is. I would hope you would negotiate and do what's best for America and not box us into a corner that if we vote this down, it allows Iran to walk away from the deal and they can start enriching tomorrow. That just doesn't seem like a smart deal from our negotiating team if it could be discarded that quickly. And that pressure is put on Congress without counseling with Congress ahead of time. So it's put Congress in a very bad situation, and my sentiments are with you. You know, with Iris, I don't think we need to fearmonger. I think we need to be real pragmatic about this and say, and that's why I say, you know, they're going to have a weapon either way. We need to prepare for that day and start negotiations today and diplomacy and talk about responsibility. Talk about responsibility of our allies, that we will stand up and protect Israel. We'll stand up and protect all of our allies the best we can. And the number one task of our government is national security. And it's time that we put this in the forefront as we negotiate. And I think, like you said, I'm sure John Kerry is a very intelligent guy. He comes across that way. But I think we could have done a lot better on this deal. And I appreciate your call.
All right, we'll go to Mike in Lewistown, Montana, a Republican.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Yoho, for your honesty. I really appreciate that. I believe this is really a protection racket, is what I hear. What's happened with the deal with Iran. It's really a protection racket, and then leave us alone. That makes no sense. And they're holding Congress and American people hostage.
Oh, Mike, I apologize. Very bad connection there, Congressman. I mean, sort of.
Mike, I
got
part saying. Of that.
Yeah.
I agree. And the thing that was interesting to me is the United Nations voted on this over the last weekend, I think it was, or first of the week. And the German finance minister or economic development person was in Iran immediately after that, as were other nations, talking about economic development. And the idea, again, going back to snapback, that if something gets broken in this agreement, all these sanctions are going to go back. And again, I feel that's a fallacy, along with the other members, a lot of the other members. And if we're going to negotiate, we should go back right now, before you have 2 years of economic development by these other countries, and try to get them to come to our side, say, hey, this is a bad deal. Iran broke this stipulation to this agreement, and to try to get them to come to our side and stop. This policy, I'll predict, will cause isolation of America instead of more involvement in these negotiations in the future, strictly because we have been put on the outside. And if we vote against this, we're on our own, as John Kerry said, as John Kerry negotiated. We are on our own. And so that puts us in an isolationist policy by this deal.
So, Congressman, here's a headline from
Yes,
your
ma'am.
state. Ted Yoho considering entering the 2016 race to replace Marco Rubio.
I don't know where that came from. I think we had an overzealous supporter. I have no intention to run for the Senate. I was surprised because I had 3 or 4 people come up to me yesterday saying, hey, Mr. Senator. I said, what are you talking about? And they brought that up. I said, no, trust me, I'm not.
You ruled it out.
It is ruled out.
The story says, looking at entering the race, but is far from making a final decision.
Real far.
Okay, so it's done. You're not going to do it.
No.
Why not?
They've got several great candidates right now on the Republican ticket, and one of those will serve Florida real well.
It looks like, though, according to the polls, half of Florida Republicans remain undecided on who they want to see replace Senator Marco Rubio. Why do you think that is?
I think it's early, and I don't think people are really focused on that. There's so much going on with the presidential debate right now. There's just a lot of noise out there with Mr. Trump. But bringing that up, Mr. Trump is leading in the poll. And I think that's a test of the feelings of the American population on the conservative side. They're so angry with what's not going on up here, about the dysfunction up here. Why is our debt not fixed? Why is immigration not fixed? All these other problems we talked about, that they like the rhetoric he's saying. He's saying stuff that people want to hear. Now, I don't know if they want him running the country, but right now it makes them feel good. And like I said, we've got several great candidates in the Senate race, and I'm staying out.
All right. Well, Politico's reporting on the presidential race that Trump has twice the support of Jeb Bush in New Hampshire. So do you think he should remain in the race? Do you agree with the rhetoric that you're hearing from him?
Yeah, I mean, not all of it, but I've heard a lot of it. And again, he just talks about having a stronger hand, representing America, making America great. Our whole line was, it's time to rebuild America. You know, let's get back to our basic principles, our core values, our Constitution. Let's stop running away. Let's unite this country instead of it being more divisive. And you have to the only way you're going to do that is having a common vision or outlook for America, what America should be. John Kennedy did that in the 60s. He united this nation around a space program. And we put a man on the moon and brought him back safely, not because of the technology we had, but because he created a desire and he challenged America, and we raised up and we did that. It united a nation, and we have to do that again. This country needs that, and it's going to require a strong leader that can speak and articulate a clear message about what's best for America. What does America stand? We've lost our way. I mean, you can see that by the Supreme Court rulings, where we stand in the world on our foreign policy. We've got a broken our foreign policy is like a broken compass. You know, people don't know where we stand. The American people want better than that. And that's why I think you're seeing them rallying around Donald Trump, because he is speaking strong.
Is he your candidate?
I'm not coming out of the I'm not coming out yet, no.
No, you haven't decided.
Appreciate you asking, though.
Well, you have your own senator from Florida, Marco Rubio.
Well, we got Governor Bush, and
yes.
We got the field has got a lot of good candidates, and we'll just see how they fare out here in the next couple of weeks. It's too early to say.
Okay, too early for you. When do you think have you been courted at all from these candidates to make a decision?
We've talked to a lot of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how often do they call?
They called in the beginning, and we told them where we stood, and I'm going to be quiet on that right now.
All right.
Appreciate you asking, though.
Wayne in Chicago, a Democrat. You're up next for the Congressman. Go ahead.
I'm really getting tired of hearing these Republicans, every time they throw a microphone in their face, they start lying. Okay. I'd like this gentleman to just tell me two representatives of any two countries that has come to him and explained to him how our status in the world has been weakened to the point of any time in history. Sue.
You ready? Egypt, Sri Lanka, Canada, Australia. I can go on and on and on. And what they said is the goodwill America has built up over the last 200 years has gone off the table. I ask people, what is the sentiment of our country in your country by your citizens? And they say, one of the Middle Eastern countries said, Congressman, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but they don't like America. It's not so much the American people, it's the American government. They don't like your policies. You're meddling, you're doing too much. We go in there, we tell people you have to have democracy if you want our help, you have to have free speech, you have to have freedom of religion, which we all believe in this country, but we go into a country that doesn't believe in those, and we're trying to give them democracy. We believe in this country that our rights come from a creator and that government's instituted by men and women to protect those God-given rights. They don't believe that in a Western or in a Middle Eastern country. They believe their power comes from government and that government is there to be served by the people. And so we go over there trying to push our ideals on there and they resent it, and then we get the conflicts we have. You know, the war in Iraq, I'm against that war. I don't think we should have ever gone over there, but you know, we're involved now. We've got to do the best we can, get our young men and women home and get them out of harm's way. But more importantly, our foreign policies in the future should work to prevent those. And you know, and if you don't like what politicians say, what I recommend is do what I did. You'll get tired of it, and then you'll run, and you can be up here to help us fix this, and I look forward to it, Wayne.
Marion, Honesdale, Pennsylvania, independent.
Good morning.
Morning.
Please, good morning. Please don't cut me off.
This is Marion.
First of all,
Honesdale.
Mr. Trump is not speaking from strength. He's speaking nastiness. Second of all, we are purveyors of we have been the purveyors of weapons of mass destruction since colonial times. We developed the atomic bomb and the nuclear bomb, and now we're trying to keep it out of the hands of people that never should have gotten it. We should have never developed it. Certain countries can have it. We can. Israel can. I think Russia maybe still, well, they at least have the knowledge. And now one of my other points has gone completely out the window. Oh, we went in there. We went into Iran in the 50s and ousted their duly elected president and put in the shore of Iran, and we are wondering why this country hates us. And stop. We need to stop trying to turn other countries into democracies. They are what they are, and we wouldn't.
Okay, let's take that point, Marion.
Marianne, I appreciate that, and I agree with you. We went into Iran back in the 70s, and you've seen what's happened since. In fact, Jimmy Carter's policy that this nation has followed is there must be security for Israel. We must make sure that oil flows out of the Middle East through the Straits of Hormuz, and that there's peace in the Middle East. That's the policy this country has followed since Jimmy Carter. My question to you and the rest of the people watching, how well is that working? And you brought up, who are we to tell another country what they can and can't do about nuclear weapons? That's my sentiment exactly. And that's what I was saying in these meetings on foreign affairs. In fact, I said that to John Bolton, that, you know, who are we to tell another country what they can and can't have? We should have better diplomacy and build trade relationships with other countries and have stronger relationships that way, and talk about the responsibility of nuclear weapons and not be dictating to other countries. So I agree with you, and that's why our foreign policy needs to change, and we need to get away from offering aid like we do in monetary sense and go in and build trade and economic relationships with countries, because if you're trading with countries, you're more likely to be like-minded and you're going to look out for each other. And that's what we need to focus our foreign policy on instead of these weapons. And I agree, we've got a lot of weapons. And it would be great if we didn't spend so much money on our military, but yet the number one task of our government is national security. But along with just the implements and the armaments, foreign policy and the negotiations through your diplomats and finding out what other countries want and help them get that without forcing them to accept our ideology is the way to go. And that's not what I'm seeing happening.
We'll go to, actually, Congressman, we are going to end there and appreciate very much your time this morning. Thank you for hanging with us.
Greta, I
and
appreciate
talking
you having
to
me
our
on.
viewers. Good to have you
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
Come back again.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to turn our attention next to the debt situation in Puerto Rico. We're going to talk with the representative from that U.S. territory. Pedro Pierluisi joins us to discuss what's next for Puerto Rico. And then later, our Spotlight Magazine series continues. The American Prospect's Harold Meyerson will be here to talk about how the American South is contributing to the low-wage economy. We'll be right back.